His purpose was to warn people, lest, God forbid, they cling to such foolish thoughts and deprive themselves of the divine beauty. Yea, these divines, to whom we have referred, were mostly unrenowned, and by the grace of God they were all purged of earthly vanities and free from the trappings of leadership. Such is the beauty of God, to whom He giveth it. Another proof and evidence of the truth of this revelation, which, amongst all other proofs, shineth as the sun, is the constancy of the eternal beauty in proclaiming the faith of God. Though young and tender of age, and though the cause he revealed was contrary to the desire of all the peoples of earth, both high and low, rich and poor, exalted and abased, king and subject, yet he arose and steadfastly proclaimeth it. Isn't that like I'm not saying this about this, but isn't that like the supreme satanic goal, is to come up with something that's opposed by everybody? All have known and heard this. He was afraid of no one. He was, regardless of consequences. Could such a thing be made manifest except through the power of a divine revelation and the potency of God's invincible will? By the righteousness of God, were anyone to entertain so great a revelation in his heart, the thought of such a declaration would alone confound him. Were the hearts of all men to be crowded into his heart, he would still hesitate to venture upon so awful an enterprise. He could achieve it only by permission of God, only if the channel of his heart were to be linked with the source of divine grace, and his soul be assured of the unfailing sustenance of the Almighty. To what, we wonder, do they ascribe so great a daring? Do they accuse him of folly, as they accuse the prophets of old? Or do they maintain that his motive was none other than leadership and acquisition of earthly riches? Gracious God, in his book, which he hath entitled Qayyumul Asma, the first, the greatest, and mightiest of all books, he prophesied his own martyrdom. In it is this passage: O thou remnant of God, I have sacrificed myself wholly for thee. I have accepted curses for thy sake, and have yearned for naught but martyrdom and the path of thy love. Sufficient witness unto me is God, the exalted, the protector, the ancient of days. Likewise, in his interpretation of the letter Ha, he craved martyrdom, saying, Methinks I heard a voice calling in my inmost being, Do thou sacrifice the thing which thou lovest most in the path of God, even as Hussein, peace be upon him, hath offered his life for my sake? And were I not regardful of this inevitable mystery by him who hath my being between his hands, even if all the kings of the earth were to be leagued together, they would be powerless to take from me a single letter, how much less can these servants who are worthy of no attention, and who verily are of the outcast, that all may know the degree of my patience, my resignation, and self-sacrifice in the path of God. Could the revealer of such utterance be regarded as walking any way but the way of God? And, well, certainly that part, being part of it, it's not totally like white, the one way or the other in almost everybody. And as having yearned for aught except his good pleasure, in this very verse, their life concealed a breath of detachment, which if it were to be breathed full upon the world, all beings would renounce their lives and sacrifice their souls, reflect upon the villainous behavior of this generation, and witness their astounding ingratitude. Observe how they close their eyes to all this glory, and are abjectly pursuing those foul carcasses from whose bellies ascendeth the cry of the swallowed substance. of the faithful. And yet, what unseemly calumnies they have hurled against those day-springs of holiness. Thus do we recount unto thee that which the hands of the infidels have wrought. They who, in the day of resurrection, have turned their face away from the divine presence, whom God hath tormented with the fire of their own misbelief, and for whom he hath prepared in the world to come a chastisement, which shall devour both their bodies and their souls. For these have said, God is powerless, and his hand of mercy is fettered. Well, we'll see if that spider that bit me earlier was bad enough later. Steadfastness in the faith is sure testimony and inglorious evidence of the truth, even as the seal of prophets hath said, two verses have made me old. Both these verses are indicative of the constancy in the cause of God, even as he saith, Be thou steadfast, as thou hast been bidden. See Al-Quran, Surah 11, ayat 113. And now consider how this Sadra of the Ridvan of God hath, in the prime of youth, risen to proclaim the cause of God. Behold, what steadfastness that beauty of God hath revealed. The whole world rose to hinder him, yet it utterly failed. The more severe the persecution they inflicted on that Sadra of blessedness, the more his fervor increased, and the brighter burned the flame of his love. All this is evident, and none disputeth its truth. Finally he surrendered his soul, and winged his flight unto the realms above. And among the evidences of the truth of his manifestation were the ascendancy, the transcendent power and supremacy which he, the revealer of being and manifestation of the adored, hath, unaided and alone, revealed throughout the world. No sooner had that eternal beauty revealed himself in Shiraz in the year 60, and rent asunder the veil of concealment, than the signs of the ascendancy, the might, the sovereignty, and power emanating from that essence of essences and the sea of seas were manifest in every land, so much so that from every city there appeared the signs, the evidences, the tokens, the testimonies of that divine luminary. How many were those pure and kindly hearts which faithfully reflected the light of that eternal sun, and how manifold the emanations of knowledge from that ocean of divine wisdom which encompassed all beings. In every city all the divines and dignitaries rose to hinder and repress them, and girded up the loins of malice and envy and tyranny for their suppression. How great the number of those holy souls, those essences of justice, who, accused of tyranny, were put to death, and how many embodiments of purity, who showed forth naught but true knowledge and stainless deeds, suffered an agonizing death. Notwithstanding all this, each of these holy beings, up to his last moment, breathed the name of God, and soared in the realm of submission and resignation. Such was the potency and transmuting influence which he exercised over them, that they ceased to cherish any desire but his will, and wedded their soul to his remembrance. Reflect, who in this world is able to manifest such transcendent power, such pervading influence? All these stainless hearts and sanctified souls have, with absolute resignation, responded to the summons of his decree. Instead of complaining, they rendered thanks unto God, and amidst the darkness of their anguish, they revealed naught but radiant acquiescence to his will. It is evident how relentless was the hate, and how bitter the malice and enmity entertained by all the peoples of the earth towards these companions. The persecution and pain they inflicted on these holy and spiritual beings were regarded by them as means unto salvation, prosperity, and everlasting success. Hath the world, since the days of Adam, witnessed such tumult such violent commotion, notwithstanding all the torture they suffered, and manifold the afflictions they endured, they became the object of universal opprobrium and execration. Methinks patience was revealed only by virtue of their fortitude, and faithfulness itself was begotten only by their deeds. Do thou ponder these momentous happenings in thy heart, so that thou mayest apprehend the greatness of this revelation, and perceive its stupendous glory. Then shall the spirit of faith, through the grace of the merciful, be breathed into thy being, and thou shalt be established and abide upon the seat of certitude. The one God is my witness. Wert thou to ponder a while, thou wilt recognize that, apart from all these established truths and above-mentioned evidences, the repudiation, cursing, and execration pronounced by the people of the earth are in themselves the mightiest proof and the surest testimony of the truth of these heroes of the field of resignation and detachment. Whenever thou dost meditate upon the cavils uttered by all the people, be they divines, learned or ignorant, the firmer and more steadfast wilt thou grow in the faith. For whatsoever hath come to pass hath been prophesied by them who are the minds of divine knowledge and recipients of God's eternal law. Although we did not intend to make mention of the traditions of a bygone age, yet, because our love for thee, we will cite a few which are applicable to our argument. We do not feel their necessity, however, inasmuch as the things we have already mentioned suffice the world and all that is therein. In fact, all the scriptures and the mysteries thereof are condensed into this brief account, so much so that were a person to ponder it a while in his heart, he would discover from all that hath been said the mysteries of the words of God, and would apprehend the meaning of whatever hath been manifested by that ideal king. As the people differ in their understanding and station, we will accordingly make mention of a few traditions, that these may impart constancy to the wavering soul and tranquility to the troubled mind. Thereby will the testimony of God unto the people, both high and low, be complete and perfect. Among them is the tradition, and when the standard of truth is made manifest, the people of both the east and west curse it. The wine of renunciation must needs be quaffed. The lofty heights of detachment must needs be attained, and the meditation referred to in the words, 1 hour's reflection is preferable to 70 years of pious worship. Now, Tirmidhi narrated this about Muhammad. I don't know who else narrated this saying. Must needs be observed, so that the secret of the wretched behavior of the people might be discovered. Those people who, despite the love and yearning for truth which they profess, curse the followers of truth, when once he hath been made manifest. To this truth the above-mentioned tradition beareth witness. It is evident that the reason for such behavior is none other than the annulment of those rules, customs, habits, and ceremonials to which they have been subjected. Otherwise, were the beauty of the merciful to comply with those same rules and customs which are current amongst the people, and were he to sanction their observances, such conflict and mischief would in no wise be made manifest in the world. This exalted tradition is attested and substantiated by the words he hath revealed. The day when the summoner shall summon to a stern business. See Al-Quran, Surah 54, Ayat 6. The divine call of the celestial herald from beyond the veil of glory, summoning mankind to renounce utterly all the things to which they cleave is repugnant to their desire. And this is the cause of the bitter trials and violent commotion which have occurred. Consider the way of the people. They ignore these well-founded traditions, all of which have been fulfilled, and cling unto those of doubtful validity, and ask why these have not been fulfilled, And yet, those things which to them were inconceivable have been made manifest. The signs and tokens of the truth shine even as the midday sun, and yet the people are wandering aimlessly and perplexedly in the wilderness of ignorance and folly, notwithstanding all the verses of the Quran and the recognized traditions, which are all indicative of a new faith, a new law, and a new revelation. This generation still waiteth in expectation of beholding the promised one, who should uphold the law of the Mohammedan dispensation. The Jews and the Christians, in like manner, uphold the same contention. Among the utterances that foreshadow a new law and a new revelation are the passages in the prayer of Nudbeh. Where is he who preserved to renew the ordinances and laws? Where is he who hath the authority to transform the faith and the followers thereof? He hath likewise revealed in the Ziyarat, visiting tablet, revealed by Ali, related by Ali, maybe. Peace be upon the truth made new. Abu Abdullah questioned concerning the character of the Mahdi, answered, saying, He will perform that which Muhammad, the messenger of God, hath performed, and will demolish whatever hath been before him, even as the messenger of God hath demolished the ways of those who preceded him. Behold, how notwithstanding these and similar traditions, they idly contend that the laws formerly revealed must in no wise be altered. And yet it is not the object of every revelation to effect a transformation in the whole character of mankind, a transformation that shall manifest itself both outwardly and inwardly, that shall affect both its inner life and external conditions. For if the character of mankind is not changed, the futility of God's universal manifestation would be apparent. In the Avalim, an authoritative and well-known book, is recorded a youth from Bani Hashim shall be made manifest, who will reveal a new book and promulgate a new law. Then will follow these words, most of his enemies will be the divines. And another passage is related of Sadiq, son of Muhammad, Ja'far the sixth Shia Imam. There shall appear a youth from Bani Hashim, who will bid the people plight fealty unto him. His book will be a new book, unto which he shall summon the people to pledge their faith. Stern is his revelation unto the Arab. If ye hear about him, hasten unto him. How well have they followed the directions of the Imams of the faith and lamps of certitude. I'm not certain about these statements, but this is what the book is saying. Although it is clearly stated, were ye to hear that a youth from Bani Hashim hath appeared, summoning the people unto a new and divine book, and to new and divine laws, hasten unto him. Yet have they all declared that Lord of being an infidel, and pronounced him a heretic. They hasten not unto that Hashemite light, that divine manifestation, except with the drawn swords, and hearts filled with malice. Moreover, observe how explicitly the enmity of the divines hath been mentioned in the books. Notwithstanding all these evident and significant traditions, all these unmistakable and undisputed allusions, the people have rejected the immaculate essence of knowledge and of holy utterance, and have turned unto the exponents of rebellion and error. Despite these recorded traditions and revealed utterances, they speak only that which is prompted by their own selfish desires. And should the essence of truth reveal that which is contrary to their inclinations and desires, they will straightway denounce him as an infidel, and will protest, saying, "This is contrary to the sayings of the Imams of the faith, and of the resplendent lights. No such thing hath been provided by our inviolable law. Even so, in this day, such worthless statements have been and are being made by these poor mortals. And consider now this other tradition, and observe how all these things have been foretold. In Arba'in it is recorded, out of the Bani Hashim there shall come forth a youth who shall reveal new laws. He shall summon the people unto him, but none will heed his call. Most of his enemies will be divines. His bidding they will not obey. I will protest, saying, this is contrary to that which has been handed down unto us by the Imams of the faith. In this day, all are repeating these very same words, utterly unaware that he is established upon the throne of he doeth whatsoever he willeth, and abideth upon the seat of he ordaineth whatsoever he pleaseth. No understanding can grasp the nature of his revelation, nor can any knowledge comprehend the full measure of his faith. All sayings are dependent upon his sanction, and all things stand in need of his cause. All else save him are created by his command, and move and have their being through his law. He is the revealer of the divine mysteries, and the exponent of the hidden and ancient wisdom. Thus it is related in the Baharul Anbar, the Athalim, and the Yanbu of Sadiq, son of Muhammad, that he spoke these words, knowledge is 27 letters. All that the prophets have revealed are 2 letters thereof. No man thus far hath known more than these 2 letters. But when the Qa'im shall arise, he will cause the remaining 25 letters to be made manifest. Consider, he hath declared knowledge to consist of 27 letters, and regard all the prophets, from Adam even unto the seal, as expounders of only 2 letters thereof. And having been sent down with these 2 letters, he also saith that the Qa'im will reveal all the remaining 25 letters. Behold, from this utterance, how great and lofty is his station. Doesn't Arabic have 28 letters, and Persian have more? I don't remember. I don't read Farsi, but behold, from this utterance, how great and lofty is his station. His rank excelleth that of all the prophets, and his revelation transcendeth the comprehension and understanding of all their chosen ones, a revelation of which the prophets of God, his saints and chosen ones, have either not been informed, or which, in pursuance of God's inscrutable decree, they have not disclosed. Such a revelation these mean and depraved people have sought to measure with their own deficient minds, their own deficient learning and understanding. Should it fail to conform to their standards, they straightway reject it. Thinkest thou that the greater part of them hear or understand? They are even like unto the brutes, yea, they stray even further from the path. See Al-Quran, Surah 25, ayat 44. How we wonder do they explain the aforementioned traditions, a tradition which, is in unmistakable terms, foreshadoweth the revelation of things inscrutable, and the occurrence of new and wondrous events in his day. Such marvelous happenings kindle so great a strife amongst the people, that all the divines and doctors sentence him and his companions to death, and all the peoples of the earth arise to oppose him, even as it hath been recorded in the Kafi, in the tradition of Jabir, in the tablet of Fatima, concerning the character of the Qa'im. He shall manifest the perfection of Moses, the splendor of Jesus, and the patience of Job. His chosen ones shall be abased in his day. Their heads shall be offered as presents, even as the heads of the Turks and the Dalamites. They shall be slain and burnt. Fear shall seize them, dismay and alarm shall strike terror into their hearts. The earth shall be dyed with their blood. Their womenfolk shall bewail and lament. These indeed are my friends. Consider not a single letter of this tradition hath remained unfulfilled. In most of the places their blessed blood hath been shed. In every city they have been made captives, have been paraded throughout the provinces, and some have been burnt with fire. And yet no one hath paused to reflect that if the promised Qa'im should reveal the law and ordinances of a former dispensation, why then should such traditions have been recorded? And why should there arise such a degree of strife and conflict that the peoples should regard the slaying of these companions as an obligation imposed upon them, and deem the persecution of these holy souls as a means of attaining unto the highest favor? Well, even if they believe the wrong thing, Islam does not say to kill people for blasphemy. Surah 6 says it a couple ways. Surah 9, is it Surah 9 that also indicates that there's no punishment? I mean, as far as what humans are supposed to do to each other. Moreover, observe how these things that have come to pass, and the acts which have been perpetrated, have all been mentioned in former traditions, even as it hath been recorded in the Radiya Katha concerning Zawra. In the Radiya Katha is related of Mu'awiyah, son of Wahab, that Abu Abdillah hath spoken. Knowest thou Zawra? I said, May my life be a sacrifice unto thee. They say it is in Baghdad. Nay, he answered. And then he added, Hast thou entered the city of Ray, an ancient city near Tehran? To which I made reply, Yea, I have entered it. Whereupon he inquired, Dost thou visit the cattle market? Yea, I answered. He said, Hast thou seen the black mountain on the right-hand side of the road? The same is Zawra. There shall 80 men of the children of certain ones be slain, all of whom are worthy to be called caliphs. Who will slay them? I asked. He made a reply, The children of Persia. Such is the condition and fate of his companions, which in the former days hath been foretold. And now observe how, according to this tradition, Zawra is no other but the land of Raya. In that place his companions have been with great suffering put to death. And all these holy beings have suffered martyrdom at the hands of the Persians, as recorded in the tradition. This thou hast heard, and unto it all testify. Wherefore, then, do not these groveling, worm-like men pause to meditate upon these traditions, all of which are manifest as the sun in its noontide glory. For what reason did they refuse to embrace the truth, and allow certain traditions, the significance of which they have failed to grasp, to withhold them from the recognition of the revelation of God and His beauty, and to cause them to dwell in the infernal abyss? Such things are to be attributed to naught but faithlessness of the divines and doctors of the age. Of these, Sadiq, son of Muhammad, hath said, The religious doctors of that age shall be the most wicked of the divines beneath the shadow of heaven. Out of them hath mischief proceeded, and unto them it shall return. We entreat the learned men of the Bayan not to follow in such ways, not to inflict at the time of Mustaghath upon him who is the divine essence, the heavenly light, the absolute eternity, the beginning and the end of the manifestations of the invisible, that which hath been inflicted in this day. We beg them not to depend upon their intellect, their comprehension and learning, nor to contend with the revealer of celestial and infinite knowledge. And yet, notwithstanding all these admonitions, we perceive that a one-eyed man, who himself is the chief of all the people, is arising with the utmost violence against us. We foresee that in every city people will arise to suppress the blessed beauty, and the companions of that Lord of being and ultimate desire of all men will flee from the face of the oppressor and seek refuge from him in the wilderness, whilst others will resign themselves, and with absolute detachment will sacrifice their lives in his path. Well, why couldn't he have taken Surah 49 ayat 2 seriously? Not raising your voice above Muhammad. Methinks, well, it doesn't say the word Muhammad, name Muhammad in there. Methinks we can discern one who is reputed for such devoutness and piety that men deem it an obligation to obey him, and to whose command they consider it necessary to submit. Who will arise to assail the very root of the divine tree, and endeavor to the uttermost of his power to resist and oppose him? Such is the way of the people. We fain would hope that the people of the Bayan will be enlightened, will soar in the realm of the Spirit, and abide therein, will discern the truth, and recognize with the eye of insight dissembling falsehood. In those days, however, such odors of jealousy are diffused that, I swear by the Educator of all beings, visible and invisible, from the beginning of the foundation of the world, though it hath no beginning, until the present day, such malice, envy, and hate have in no wise appeared, nor will they ever be witnessed in the future. For a number of people who have never inhaled the fragrance of justice have raised the standard of sedition, and have leagued themselves against us on every side. We witness the menace of their spears, and in all directions we recognize the shafts of their arrows. This, although we have never gloried in anything, nor did we seek preference over any soul, to everyone we have been a most kindly companion, and most forbearing and affectionate friend. In the company of the poor, we, which our enemies have ceaselessly and unassiduously contrived to exterminate us, were unto all witness. And one thing that's particularly important is to, rise to action. But be guided. Figure out what's just. Just don't. Particularly when it comes to violence. Just don't, there's an opportunity for violence and there's some change happening here.